Is War Horde really best? Has the hunt finally found its way? Or is Taktikal Brigade the true way of the Dakka War? Welcome to Wall Tactics. Today we're going to talk about the performing Ork detachments, as finally some of the results are in. And, you know, some of the obvious contenders are in play, but some new gets have come out, right? So boo-hoo, but was most of the Ork community. But let's talk about what Meta Monday has to say. Now, these stats are a little bit skewed because it is the last weekend of the Dakka WAAAGH. For More Dakka does exist as some events. So you'll see here that 9 of them went X and 1 at their last outing, and then they had actually a win. So that doesn't exist anymore, but you can see that they were starting to continue stampeding with a 62% win rate. But at other events that they weren't able to run it and they didn't have it, we had Green Tide making an appearance. This was actually Seth the Mad Dog. Shout out to Seth, but he was running our boy Noah's group swim, right? So if you guys know what that is, part of the community, that archetype's getting solely rolled out. People are picking it up. Shout out to Noah for being a Jedi in that way. Then we have the hunt. So the hunt doesn't show it has events, but I'm going to cover some particular player who finally had some results with the hunt, who's a part of the community, and it was on War Games Live, so it gives us a lot to talk about. Very fun. We have the Dread Mob having an X1 event with a 55% win rate. Don't sleep on Dread Mob, guys. I've been having a really good time with that if you guys are still into some Dakka. We have War Horde that sitting only at a 44% win rate, but it did have the most players, right, at 18. So I know the stats don't look out, but obviously that's because they're median average going on. Yet that's still a bit lower than you would assume. We did have 3 players that are X and 1, and then 1 player that did have a winning. And we are going to cover that person that did go undefeated. But War Horde, you know, is still pretty awesome regardless of what the stats say here right now. And then we have Bully Boys with a 37% win rate, Taktikal Brigade with 2 X and 1 players, and then a Cult of Speed player at that. So we are going to cover some tactical gets, but of course, before we do that, let's shout out to today's sponsors, the Baron of Dice, for their high-quality dice for allowing us to do the paint competition. So check them out in the description for 5% off, because nobody likes taxes. And then shout out to Forge Fire Gaming, as they have the acrylic bases that have slotted entries so that you can actually secure your bases and then pick them up for competitive, accurate Warhammer playing. And so shout out to them and check them out in the description. And we move on. So for the first get, my boy Brandon, shout out to him. He actually did give me some notes, and he did have the big hunt. So let's pull out. He was actually at, I have the event up right here. Shout out to you, Gits. What's up, chat? I see you guys. I know Cult of Speed. Woo! Yeah, I know. The people aren't going hard right now on that, but people are trying to figure it out. So he did get 22nd. He started off 4-0, which was the fun part about the hunt outing, right? Is that he just came out the gate still getting to the top table. So it's one thing if you lose round 1, and then it's another thing if you make it to 4-0, right? You end up in different brackets. You get in harder matchups as you make it to the top. So even by game 4, game 3, you're gonna face some heat, and well, that's what happened to Brandon. And then you did see his last 2 games on War Games Live. This was the Battle for Alzheimer's. It was a fundraiser, so that's pretty awesome. It was about 150 players. And shout out to our boy Andrew Stone for his support. 5 WAAAGH Tactic memberships. Whoa! So thank you to that, because we're actually going to do a video with Brandon on the memberships and have like a little one-on-one interview with him and go more in depth than we're even going to go on right now. So if you get that and you want interested in the hunt, you can check that out and actually see what's going on with Brandon. We'll hit up some questions and that stuff for that video as well. So shout out to you, Andrew. Very supportive as always. You get shout out big time, and thank you for the support. Yeah, shout out to you. Give Andrew some knobs in the chat if you pick up one of those memberships. So let's take a look at his list fully. Nothing too fancy dancy. We know what the hunt's all about. We did have a video covering all the Ork detachments, and even this, you know, it kind of looks exactly what we would have assumed going into that video. So we have a beast boss, a proper killy beast boss, of course, because proper killy is proper killy. And then we have a beast boss with Glory Hog, very important to this list. Mazrog Scragbag, and of course Zagrat Wartsnagga. Even though he's not a snagga keyworded, he's important for how this list runs and the kind of pressure that it brings. He has 2 10-man unit of knobs, a 20-man unit of grats, followed by 2 minimum size unit of grats. Sorry, this should be 22 and 11, I know, but typo on me. And then a 2 kill rigs, followed by 1 commando unit, as they're very important for all the scouting you have on this list. As you see Brandon play this on the More Games Live, you can see how that actually works out and could be used in some other ways that he will talk about later. We have 2 big bricks of Squighog boys. So like we talked about in that video we did about a week ago, the rule of 2 is very important for the hunt, and the pressure that this list is played on. Now, there's nothing really fancy-dancy about it. Very expensive these units are, as in the Squighog boys, 320 points. Goodness gracious, right? But he still makes it work. So a lot of times it's the pilot guys, it's a passion project. I know that, but results speak for themselves. And of course, there's more context than that a lot of the time, and let's get into it because we do have some context for you, as Brandon did give us some notes. So let's look at his first game. Let's look at his matchup, and then we'll talk about what he has to say about that, because his first matchup was also mean and green, the bully boys machine out here, you guys. Yes, his first matchup was into a faction mirror where he actually had to go into the bully boys. So we have our fellow orc player. What's up, Greg? Whoa, to another orc boss. So we have a beast boss, 3 war bosses with mega armor, and he has no enhancements on that. He went for 1 10-man unit of Snagas. I don't hate it on this at all. You know, you bring them, they still get the second wand in this case. You don't get access to sustain, and there's no gas, but you still get them nice dev wounds. 3 minimum size unit of Gretches, followed by 3 3-man units of mega knobs. 2 of them have 3 twin kill saws, and then 1 of them has combi weapons and power claws. 3 big 10-man scalpel knob bricks, right? I like to call these the scalpels because a lot of the time you're just cutting out the enemy problem, and that's a big deal, right? Volume is king with 3 with double WAAAGHs. 4 trucks for them for all the transportation. Now let's talk about a little bit how this matchup actually ended up playing out when what Brandon had to say. So he said this was on layout 6. The mission was terraform. You as an orc player, be very careful and understanding. Terraform is actually quite important for you, and a lot of time we do have battle line units. If you can get battle line units off, even on one of those objectives in No Man's Land, you get 2 points every round from when you done it all the way to the end of the game, right? So you can get 8 points different there, and it does make a difference in the game if you can get it off. That being said, he said his opponent got first turn, but he had scouted the pigs. And Dirty Mike is what he likes to call Zagra, to kind of body block his front line and only presenting him, you know, big dumb and 9-inch charges from there. He did use his commandos to go up into the top of the No Man's Land kind of objective. And as the enemy, he said he expected the enemy kind of staged up on objective 1 with a truck unit on the knob with full of knobs inside of it. And actually left some other trucks exposed. So the enemy did leave some kind of things exposed that you wouldn't really necessarily ideally want to, you know, orc player to orc player, right? You look at the hunt list though, and you think, well, they don't have the guns to blow me up. Yet you have the war towers, the Squighog boys, and then in some cases you could throw on the grenades if you could. Let me see, do Squighog boys even have grenades? I think they do. Last I checked. But what did he say? He ended up using, just to make sure he ended up using it with that. He ended up destroying the trucks with he did use Squighog bombs, though. I had lost it in the notes where I had it where he destroyed it. But he ended up destroying the truck in the middle of the objective, and then body blocking it with Zagrat's unit, and then the other objective on top that was kind of staged behind a terrain piece, he used the Beast Snagga boys to pop it in melee, the truck itself, and then when the 10-man unit of knobs disembarked from the exploding truck, he used his squigs, who had multi-charged the trucks, to pile in to that 10-man unit and pick them up, and then from there, it was a wall-on-wall chart, you know, going on. So Brandon made sure that he kind of gets some problematic units and trucks out of the way, because you are quite, elite with your hunt list. So the fact that he was able to take a big chunk of meat out of this list to start was important, because as he said, as the matchup continued, the bully boy player started to kind of win the exchanges. A lot of time people don't realize that Squighog boys do actually lose the fight in a prolonged fight into Mega Knobs, because their armor saves and they feel no pain for and then they're going to get it for both WAAAGH, so that's going to be the duration of their fight pretty much. So as Brandon was losing that, he understood and he assessed the battlefield. He ended up knowing that he was down on primary, so then he did a secret mission, and he used Maz to end up taking his enemy home objective, and ended up pulling up at 78 to 76 close game victory. What an excellent win in that, and understanding how to play the tempo into the mega to the bully boys. So great win right there, and no shame at all to Greg. It sounds like that he was really aggressive and knew how to use his mega knobs to kind of win that outcome, those fights, because he only had 3 mega knobs per unit. So that's interesting to think about. A lot of time more players would think that those big 8-man unit of squigs might be able to hold it down and the rigs, but you know, bully boys is there to bully, and he still had 2 10-man units of 10 knobs that were still kind of doing damage. The enemy pulled Call the Horde on that following turn for the clapback, so he ended up killing Zagra in the response, and so it was a dogfight. So great job to you, Brandon, and he moves on to the second round, and let's see what he did, because then he went into the Necrons. Now this is one of my favorites. Going into Necrons is something that I like to do because I have a personal grudge against them. As I'm an Ork player, I like to get stuck in with them. So we have Necrons with the Awakened Dinosaur. He had Luminor Cesares, who's still sticking around with his dirty index rolls pretty much, and our boy Maz got nerfed. So we have Emotech the Stormlord, this Diviner, Uriken the Diviner, 2 Plasmancers, 2 triple Royal Wardens, and then a Scorpack Lord. So even though he had the Royal Wardens, I'll tell you right now, Brandon still put that pace on him. So we have 2 10-man units of Immortals, followed by a big 20-man unit of Warriors, 2 5-man units of Death Marks, followed by 2 Doomsday Arcs, heavy Locust Destroyers, Lich Guard, and then Scorpack Destroyers. So Brandon's notes for this one was this mission was layout 1, Linchpin, where he had to, and it looks like Search and Destroy was the deployment layout. We have, yeah, so we have, and it's on layout 1, game 2 layout 1. So he said, and it was raised banners. Okay, but as we see, he doesn't really have too much battle line, so he's not taking advantage of that. But if you did have battle line, 2 things already to start the game, even though, you know, raised banner's not going to give you much. So he said this one was tough for the Necrons. He had no infiltrate, so he just staged the commandos at the top side objective behind a wall, staged Dirty Mike and the scouts early so that he could rush if he got first turn. He ended up getting first turn, holding all his Necrons back, stuck in his deployment zone. The Necron player did have options because he does have those triple Royal Wardens, so he could fall back and shoot. But there's still moves you can make as the squigs as themselves. They can reactive move 6, so you can kind of move around and they'll try to move block them as they continue and try to re-engage with you, and you can fall back and charge. So it still ended up being a problem for him. So he ended up winning a 70-38. Great win there. It was just a matchup and him understanding what it could do, and he staged himself up really aggressively. Good job by that. And then we move on to his third one. I actually love when that game works out for you. When we talk it out in the video I did last week, it was like you know, pressure, tempo, you know, kind of keeping momentum was a big deal with the hunt and the timing of the wall. So Brandon kind of read the battlefield right there, as you can see, and that's you as the pilot of the generalship really comes into play here, right? So then we go into his third game. Now we know Shadow Legion be cooking, right? We know these guys are out here, big, strong detachment. We have Bellacore, Bloodmaster, Bloodthirster, Renmaster. Of course, we know the Bloodthirster kills something, gets up, runs away. That could be quite problematic for you as an Ork player if you're not aware of it or don't know how to interact with it, because then he's just taking chunks out of your army and then running away to interact with you. What Brandon said right off the bat with this is that every time he could, he would Overwatch, and even on the War Games Live, you can see he attempts that as well. Just trying to not only threaten it, but let the enemy know he can do it, but he would definitely do it every time. So it's an option, but he was like, I'm doing it for them whenever I can get it. I'll try to take chunks of flesh out of him as I can. 1 blood letter unit, triple Nurglings, 3-man units, a Beast of Nurgle, a Blood Crusher, a minimum size unit of them, 2 units of the Flesh Hounds, a big brick of Screamers, followed by 3-man Screamers, a Seeker unit, a Brigand, and then a unit of Cultists. So as for the notes in this game, this was actually layout 6. Purge the foe. I mean, normally this is a problem for us Ork players, but you know, with the hunt, you're kind of a little bit more elite here. So you're trying to hunt them down as well, and you're not really giving up too many units. It was Smoke and Mirrors as a secondary part of that. He said he put nothing in reserve. He said this was a fun game mentally. He said against Shadow Legion, he plays a bit super conservatively. He uses commandos in his grots and his kill rigs throughout the game to just score secondaries. His Bloodthirster thought his Bloodthirster thing, killing stuff, going back up. And like I said, he keeps trying to overwatch it. But what really ends up happening is on turn 2, the enemy pulls Call the Horde. So, you know, Brandon had called the WAAAGH, and this guy was like, okay, well, I'm still going to go for a Zod, even though he has a 5-up invuln right now. So when he ended up going after it, he ended up using his Seekers to go after Zod to bring the volume, and it kind of, that was his block for Be'lakor. So on turn 3, Brandon pulled the advance and charge, pulled the beast boss with proper killie out, ran up on him, executed 5-up, critical 5+, fished for those 5s and 6s, and ended up putting 18 damage and dev wounds into Be'lakor and just punching him out of the game. And then from there, just continued momentum, killing units and just scoring just enough, 96 to 78. So great job by that for pulling it out on Shadow Legion. And as you can see, you know, the context of what actually happens in the game dictates, you know, what was really happening for the combat as well, not just the points, right? A lot of the times people are like, well, the secondary, he just scored this, and they don't pay him much mind. They just think of it as points. But where did you end up for the sake of scoring those points? And in this player's case, he was out of position and gave up his blocking, his screen for Be'lakor, and Be'lakor is really the linchpin of Shadow Legion. So if you can get in there, which is easier said than done, and take him out, because he's quite durable, that beast boss was the ideal unit to get in there. So shout out to Brandon for getting that off. That would have felt so good to be like, oh, executed. All I needed was my beast boss and my knob to finish this off. Right. So then he moves on to his 4th game. So in his 4th game, he goes into a Blood Angels player named Zach Hiltz. Shout out to Zach. I guess they're quite familiar and they've been duking it out. So he brought the Angelic Inheritors. Let's talk about the list, and I'll give you Brandon's notes. So we have a Captain with Jump Pack with the enhancement Blazing Icon, Commander Dante, Judiciar, Lieutenant with Combi weapon. We have a Tech Marine, and then the Sanguinor. So an Intercessor squad unit for that sticky Impulsor, where the Blade, I said Blade Champion, where the Judiciar was the Blade Guard, what the Blade Guard was inside the Impulsor. 1 big brick of Blade Guard veterans, an Inceptor squad, their Plasma Inceptors, followed by an Incursor squad, a small unit of Sanguinary Guard, followed by a big brick of Sanguinary Guard, and then 2 Vindicators. So this is a very the Hunty sort of game. So let me shout out to his list, his notes. So in this one, it was layout 1. And it was the Ritual. Oh, so the Ritual is one of those where, you know, the enemy can end up just playing 1 in their near their home, staging up to go to kill you, and then run up and try to take yours naturally as an Orc player, or you really make your own in the same sense. Like, okay, I make 1 safe so I can keep scoring, and then I'm going to wait for you to create some, and then I'm going to run up and kill you. So the hunt is really cat and mousey. Yeah, so he said this one was scary because of the Blood Angel players, but he was using his grots to focus on making the rituals. And he full court just presses his side of the table with Sanguinary Guard bricks. He ends up getting some charges off in the pigs. So like we talked about earlier, and we probably show this off in a video sometime, where he ends up taking his beast boss, popping the transport, and then allowing his his squigs, who had also declared the transport in a charge phase, to still activate, pile into the units that had disembarked in that case, and get into combat with them. So he ended up fighting the Judiciar and the Blade champs, but in that case, sure, you know, you've mitigated their potential. So he said past turn, let's see, but he said, yeah, they're heavily nerfed by this point. So past WAAAGH turn starts dying, but in turn 2, he had put Maz and some pigs in reserve, so he dropped them turn 3 into the enemy's deployment zone near his weaker objective that had less support, weaker units, and just Vindicator there. So he ended up using that to really hunt it down. So like we spoke about, when you're playing the ritual, it's not necessarily about you as an Orc player to make a bunch on your side and hold them. Like maybe if you're coming from another army, you might think that. I'm gonna, like Leagues of Voltan, for example. as orcs, you're going to make one with your cheap chaff unit like Storm Boys or Grots, and then you're going to think about ways that you can get down the field to them and start stealing their objectives by late game and not really not about staying on your side of the field to hold your own. So in this case, he picked up Maz and some squigs and then started duking it out. So even if you get a fight there, you usually have good enough OC, and then you can still fall back and recharge on there to keep stealing a primary and swinging the game. He said the clock got thin. He ended up winning 71-70. The enemy player ended up timing out. And then that was the game. So then we move on to, so that was a great game. So it was it was a move on. It was a great game to that still. 71 point on the ritual. And yeah, against Blood Angels, that's not easy because you guys both really, you don't got fight on death like other Orc detachments. That can go downhill quick if you're not, if you're greedy and you're not careful. So then we go to his fifth game. So this was the game on War Games Live. Remember, by this point, he's 4-0 with the big dogs now, right? Big dogs, War Games Live. And then he goes into Derek. And I think Derek is that 40K Dirtbags, I think. Awesome channel from some little bit that I've seen from it. But David's a fan, the co-founder of the channel. So shout out to them. So he goes Shadow Legion again. So Brandon's familiar with Shadow Legion. So you can check this out on War Games Live. But Bellacore, Bloodthirster, Exalted Flamer, Nurglings, Plague Bearers, Flamers, 2 units of Fleshhound Seekers, Cursed Cultist, Chaos Lord and Terminator Armor, 2 units of Cultists, followed by a Dark Commune, and then 2 units of Havocs. So because you can watch this, in short, he said that he should have played a little bit more aggressively and use the commandos more in like a defensive manner to block out the scouting. A lot of time what we talk about on the channel, but you know, it's easier said than done, right? Especially when you're on stream, very, very hard. So, but Brandy immediately recognized this, saying, well, I should have just placed my commandos in like a bow tie across the field and stopped it, the cavalry doing what it did turn 1. But in this case, he said that he also just, you know, wish that he could have at least had a little bit more of a chance if he would have drawn a little bit more better secondaries in that case, which we all feel that way, right? When the cards are random secondaries, you're like, if I would have get this, maybe I could still stay in it. But because you have to make certain maneuvers to get out of the nail jail you're in. So you need certain secondaries to continue scoring in the position you're in, the limited position you're in, which he wasn't able to. So he ended up losing that game. No shame in that. Obviously, you were in the big dogs area, and also that's a very, very strong meta army. But it was very fun to hear you know, Derek not really be too familiar with the hunt, you know, what it could do. And he was like, yeah, I'm not used to this kind of orcs or like how you're playing them, and this is just weird. A lot of heroics going on. So great job with you, Brandon. It was an entertaining game for sure, which is are you not entertained, right? How everybody should feel right now after you watch that game. Because I mean, he was playing with the hunt going 4-0, and then that point you know, fighting on stream is just awesome because most people just are looking to just play it to any degree. Brandon's out here doing what he said he was going to do. So into his last game, he ended up going into Chaos Knights, Stalker, 4 Brigands, 4 Carnivores, Beast of Nurglings, Plague Bears, Rodakis. In this game, he said it was Take and Hold, Raise Banners. It looks like this was layout 2. And then he said rough game for him. He said definitely it's a strong player who actually was familiar with orcs. And that he said he doesn't think, you know, he should have gone for Rodakis in short. So he ended up going for Rodakis when he was there instead of going for more War Dogs. You know, when you get in this matchup, the idea is take down as many War Dogs on the wall turn as you could. And he just said, well, my Tiger Party was off there. Boom. Didn't play that right. That just happens. But still be proud. Still shine. It was the great hunt. Was still on, right? And you put some love on them. So shout out to Brandon. Let's give one talk about his very linear the hunt list, because like I said, you can't get too creative, so it's really about the pilot. He has 2 beast bosses, one with Proper Kelly, a beast boss with Glory Hog, Mazrog, Zagra, Wartsnaga, 2 10-man units of Snagas, a 20-man unit of Gretchen, 2 minimum size unit of Gretchen, Killrigs, Mandos with the Breacher Ram Chop and Power Claw, and then 2 big bricks of Squig Honk Boys. So if you want to look how to use the hunt, check out the channel's other videos and playlists. One we did about the factions overall. We'll help you with that a little bit. any more content we come out with, we do an interview with Brandon about how he would change lists, maybe what he did to improve on this, and some fundamental important things that and tips and tricks that he would pass on. So whoa to Brandon, and shout out to that. And now we move on. So we have Gergo Kovacs, which he was in, I think, Hungary, right? Yeah, so he was in Hungary. This was my boy who was playing the War Horde. So he was actually the undefeated Ork player. This was a smaller event, I believe, like 30, less than 30 players. But he did go 5-0. So let's take a look at his list, proving out that War Horde still got what it takes. But he brought some Dakka, right? Brought some Dakka, man. So he has a Beast Boss, 2 Big Mechs with shock attack guns, Gazgul Thraka, because having War Horde without Gazgul Thraka almost feels criminal. A War Boss with head Wappas. That's just having a point left over, right? You have head Wappas kill chopper. You're like, I got the points, whatever. It's on 6s. I guess what I get. A 10-man unit of Beast Stagger Boys as the only battle line. 4 trucks, 2 5-man units of Flash Kits, 2 minimum size unit of Gretchens, a commando unit with all the fixins, had the Breacher Ram, the Burner, the Rocket, and the Power Claw. 3 Mega Nods for Gaz. I really like that people are paying for the 3rd Mega Knob. I think it helps you a lot, right? It's less punishing, helps you just a little bit more damage, survive just a little bit more of the oncoming fire, some overwatches, assures that you get the bonuses from combat from at least having 1 Mega Knob left over. So yeah, and then having 1 Kill Psalm and 1 Power Claw is quite important for that. The way you choose which weapon you want for your optimal target. It's optimal, sorry, for what you're targeting. Then we have 1 big brick of 10 knobs. We talk about this as the Scapulson's index. When is that go turn on the wall? You're like, that unit, that's my problem. Volume of punches, critical 5+. You're within Gaz's range, so it's critical, sustained, 5+ lethal. You're dead by just furious saturation. I put like 40 wounds on units with this combination where you have Gaz's aura plus unbridled carnage, where you're in War Horde and you're just putting 5+ critical, sustained, lethal with damage 2 into people. It feels fantastic. Then you have 2 5-man units of Storm Boys, followed by the 2 Tank Busters. So we talk about the Dakka. So we always say that you don't want to come like empty-handed in the shooting phase necessarily if you can't help it. As an Ork player, I don't advise that. And in this case, the Tank Busters, and just he brought 2 rocket pistols with the knobs. In this case, you really want the Tank Busters for 1 to get respect out of your enemy on the gun line, so that they can't just post up on you and never move throughout the game and consistently fire Overwatch, deny your objectives, hold the middle without really having to contest much of any point value, and just in general messing up your staging as an Ork player. 2 allows you to destroy transports or really problematic units that are at range that would really disrupt your attrition rate, where they can maybe move too quickly or really stage up in late game in the middle, and just really once the wall's over, not respect your army anymore. Well, Tank Busters allow you on multiple turns to have that anti-tank threat, and or assure that when it's the wall, you can actually break that art unit. When sometimes you really didn't have the potential. So I really like that he brought the Tank Busters, and really the shock attack guns do make a difference, because they're the ones who gain almost more from the exchange, because +1 to wound and +1 to hit on your big mech with shock attack gun is what makes the difference, as his AP is just so good into like the power armor matchup. So he goes, so Dakka wasn't nerfed this weekend. Much love to you too, boss. Whoa! He says Sog Big Mech boss. Yes. It wasn't nerfed necessarily, not everybody and everywhere, but it was nerfed. So let's look at his path to victory, because I'm quite excited to see things he ran over. And I think just Ork players should be excited. I see you guys in the chat. Don't worry, I'm gonna interact with you guys in a second. But let's see what he had to face. So he straight up went into the Blue Boys, the Ultramarines. So he had a Gladius Task Force, Captain, Judiciar, Lieutenant with Combi, and then Manius Calgar. Oop, no G-Man, new G-Man. Some people really doesn't like paying for that, and Manius Calgar kind of can help really be that big anchoring support role anyways. Like, he can do a lot of the same things. So we have minimum size unit of Intercessors and Impulsor. I was lucky for that Judiciar. 2 units of ballistic dreadnoughts, a big brick of Blade Guard veterans, a company of heroes, incursors, repulsor executioner, scout, and then 2 units of vindicators. So like we spoke about before, the vindicators were typically one of those problematic units where it's like, well, if I can't get gas into it on that WAAGH turn, I don't have anything that can crack this reliably. I mean, me myself personally, I've put breaker boys, for example, into this and just simply lack the AP where they can really just reliably kill this. Sure, they can kill it, but it's not necessarily reliable, and you have to take Overwatch on the way in. Compared to something like, well, I've taken some knobs down from Overwatch for my tank busters, but really my shock attack gun is what's melted through the hull of that Vindicator. Nonetheless, when we're talking about something like Manius Calgar, even he, by pure volume saturation, if he's already chipped down by a couple bomb squigs on his company of heroes, and he's been taking a little bit damage on the way in, and then he gets hit with that combination of gas plus a 10-man unit of knobs, with critical 5+ lethal sustain, just the pure volume is going to just peel away most of the defensive reliability of that unit, where it's just like, well, you're just putting so many wounds on me that I might not survive this. Now, you do want to still use strategies such as taking 2 units, charging into the impulsor, using 1 to destroy it, and then allowing it to disembark what's inside of it, and then piling into that unit that's inside of it. But nonetheless, this comes down to I can fight on death, and I'm doing the orc thing, but with actually some guns. So I really, really like this in the power armor matchup. I think the tank busters make a huge difference in that, because he put a 100-point game up on there. And I'm just having gas, guys, just having gas. A lot of the time, Space Marine players in general, but most armies are going to just see and know that gas is there, and they're going to just focus in on him and not understanding that everything in your army is very, very potent, and just going to be devastating. I mean, not to mention, guys, he still had a beast boss, right? We were just thinking about that, not mentioning the beast boss outside of the WAAGH turn and his potential, popping a Vindicator, destroying, dreadnoughts. It gets awesome. I love it. War Horde is just sick, right? War Horde is just sick. Let's see a second matchup. Let's see what chat said. He goes, let's see. Yeah, no, they're not arguing how. Yeah, well, the Dakka was really bad when it was up, but now I think it's totally playable. I think you can play Dakka just with walkers and just different units, Titanic walkers specifically. But it's not, don't be poo-poo about it. I just think we're gonna talk about Taktikal Brigade today, and we're gonna see Taktikal Brigade still has a lot to it, and still is kind of ahead of the pack, and at least the preference of the orc community. And orc bikers actually have a good place. I don't know about for spamming them, but bringing them on your list passively. Yeah, if you want to spam them, for sure, call to speed, like you guys are talking about in the chat. So we have his next matchup was the Death Guard. Typically a problematic matchup for the orcs, but he did end up having to face Mortarion and then 2 units of these Death Guard sorcerers. Mind you, these Death Guard sorcerers can reduce damage by 1 in any phase, so not cool if you're not prepared for that. Tallyman and then Typhus. Typhus likes to get in those fights, prolonged fights where he can either drop by himself or he has the big unit of Poxwalkers with him. So both are quite annoying. He has a 2-man unit of Chaos Spawn, a 10-man unit of Cultists, followed by another 10-man unit of Cultists, 2 big bricks of these Death Shroud Terminators that are going to have access to reduce damage twice, because one from the strat that's in the detachment as well in combat. So this is one of those units where you're like, oh no, my knobs are now -1 damage. But do not be weary, because you still have Gaz, you still have the tank bosses themselves, you still have mortal wound potential. And just by volume, because these guys don't have access to Armor of Contempt, you can still really put it on them. We have 3-man units of bloat drones, 2 have mowers and 1 has a probe, and then we have 2 units of the haulers, followed by the big unit of Poxwalkers for my boy Typhus up there. 1 unit of Nurglings, followed by the Beast of Nurgle, and then War Dog Brigands. So that's where you're really happy that you brought those flash kits, right? As soon as those Nurglings are exposed, you get those flash kits on them, get them off the field, so you can't be stacking -2 to hit on you, and you can really maintain that combat. I love to see it. The fact that you have guns means that the Brigand can't be disrespectful and just expose itself. If you choose not to go for the little drones and the other armor he has on the list, because he doesn't really have anything too interesting besides Morty. And sometimes you just be like, well, I'm just not going to kill Morty right now. I'm going to kill everything else. Then in that case, you can just choose to put your tank bosses into the Terminators. So you're coming with that multi-phase combat and pick those guys up when really they think they can disrespect you typically as an Ork player, because they're like, I'm just going to make your damage 1 across the board. It's like, well, not in this case. And we do have the Beast Boss, which you don't really like the Beast Boss as Morty himself either. So that being said, he's not an easy game, not an easy win. But he got a 100-point win there, 99-point win there. So he took it like it was easy. Maybe he was very familiar with the matchup. Maybe he just used all his assets. Like I said, Death card in the past would say I have a lot of Nurglings, and then I have the -1 to hit from the contagion, to your weapon skill and ballistic skill. So I don't have to respect you. And in this case, well, we have shooting now. We have that Dakka, some support. So we have the Death Guard veterans, where he says, Death Guard, watch your back. More of a international kind of Europe kind of thing. I think some right now happening right now. Not exclusively for Death Watch, but that's where I'm seeing it a little bit more. We have the Captain in Gravis armor. What's up to him with the Tomb of Ectoclades. Judiciar. So we're seeing Judiciar in almost every single Space Marine list that's doing well so far tonight. Not surprised. I'm not surprised. Lieutenant with combi weapons, and then the Master, the Watchmaster. We have a unit of Death Watch veterans, and then a Saw unit of Death Watch veterans, 2 rhinos, two big bricks of, oh, these aren't big bricks, sorry. These are 2 minimum size unit of Death Watch Terminator squads, followed by an Indomitor kill team, another Indomitor kill team, an Infiltrator squad, and then a Storm Speeder Thunderstrike. Not going to act like I'm too familiar with Death Watch right now. We know that it's a high skills healing kind of meta or list. Because this player did end up doing well in the event. You can see that he only lost to this one Ork player. And it was a relatively close score. So shout out to you. And we should keep a shout out. Death Watch starts to keep doing well. Is he onto something there? Or was that just a one-time get? Then we have his 4th game, which was into Chaos Demons. Now, if you're running gas, you're running War Horde, you got some beast bosses on your list, you're feeling pretty good going into Death, turning into Demons, but it's not a pushover game by any means. So we have Bellacore, Bloodmaster, a Great Unclean One. Oh, so this isn't this is the Incursion, so this isn't the same thing. This is like the typical index one. You see as Endless Gift. So still respectable. But in this case, you ignore Fat Boy with the Endless Gift, and you're just like, I'm going to kill everything else. So we have Fate Weaver, followed by Scarbrand. So Scarbrand's on foot, a little bit slow, a little bit ready to get punched out. We have a Bloodletter unit, Plague Bears, 2 Nurglings, 2 Screamers, and then a big unit of Bricker Screamers. So very big brick demon heavy. If you're playing War Horde and you have Gaz and you have Beast Bosses, you already have like 2 very important assets to just punching out some of those demons. Not to mention the knobs that are non-volume to assist you in that play. The trucks make it so it's hard for them to really get off on you first. Not to mention you have tank busters, right? So yikes. That'd feel pretty good on that. And then he goes into his last game, which was Chaos Knight spam, baby night spam, right? So everybody knows what that's like. It's kind of like expected. So we have War Dogs, 5 Brigands, followed by an Executioner, and then 5 Carnivores, 2 Beasts of Nurgle, and then 2 minimum sized unit of Nurglings. This is very much about how much can I get off on my wall and kill as many of these War Dogs as I can. Don't let them get damage off on gas too early so that they have to deal with them all at once on the wall when everybody has the feel no pain and all his mega knobs at their most potential. Very important that you, at least for me, I've always found it very important that I at least punch out 2 War Dogs if I can help it with 1 unit of knobs, but that doesn't always end up being the case. I would say the tank bosses again kind of help with this. They not just because it's like, oh, point for point, they're not really trading out the War Dogs well. You'd be correct by that, but it is dictate where they're going to place their models and what they can use to actually retain objectives. So they don't get to really just tiptoe into you and do stuff because you're like, well, I'm just going to keep my tank busters, pop those guys. Okay, now you have to commit again. Okay, tank busters, pop those guys. Okay, now you guys are going to commit. Okay, well, match on the wall. Whoa, and you get up on top of them. So great job there by Giorgio. 96-point win there. Love my War Horde. Love War Horde for the damage potential spiking here. Foundational SWAT teams, of course, infiltrations. Do not sleep on infiltrations, especially if you're bringing 4 trucks. Stops you from getting jailed. This helps you on search and destroy. It allows you to get secondaries. It's a big deal, but it does take some repetition and practice. So I always push commandos, as you know, in the org community that I'm aware of. But I know that it's not fun. Trust me, I know it's not fun to get used to it. But you'll see that when you start going to 5-round events, there's so many matchups that are really important that you play that early game. And when it's really about War Horde, they really help you dictate when you can actually do the wall, help you kind of control your rate of attrition by people not forcing moves out of you because you have no scouting and no infiltration. So they can really just be like, well, I'm just going to stage up on you, force a couple of your trucks out to limited places they can be, pop them, kill the assets within. Now you have to call a wall because you're limited on assets and you have to run into my screen. You know, this helps while you mix in some Dakka in there, mix in some infiltration for cunning, and then you still keep the core if I got gas and a bunch of punchy hard missile units. So shout out to that, and shout out to Andrew again for 5 TAKTIK gifted memberships. Whoa! So shout out to you. You get we're gonna do more videos in the channel members, so be sure to check them out and put some knobs in the chat for Andrew Stone being an extra supportive git like always. Hope we encourage you and your WAAAGH, Andrew, especially with the War Horde. And of course, now we move on to Ryan McGuire, who was playing the Taktikal Brigade, boys. So we had Taktikal Brigade. They didn't have double orders. It's been quite a hot minute. Really, the only thing that got changed was in that quick time was the Dakka. So we know that this guy was definitely using 1 order when he was getting this done. So this was the Montana Beer Hammer GT, where he ended up going 4-1, but he did go 4-0 for his first 4 games. So even though he did end up in 9th place, that we're going to see here, you know, that's why sometimes rankings can be a little deceiving because, you know, like, oh no, that was in 9th place. Sorry, he was in 7th place. I messed up. Sorry, guys. I'm lying. Anyways, lying. Was this guy? I think Matthew was playing More Dakka. Was he? No, he was playing War Horde, a different one. He was playing Conquer. That was another player that did well. Shout out to you, Matthew. But we were looking at Taktikal Brigade here. Ha! Okay, sorry, I jumped out. It was Ryan. My guy. So Ryan, shout out to you guys. So Ryan did end up going 4-1, like I said, with his Taktikal Brigade list. So let's take a look at that, where he did end up getting 7th place, where you have 2 beast bosses. We'll talk about that. A Big Mech in Mega Armor with Mech Captain, which is arguably the reason you're playing the detachment. A Big Mech with Shock Attack Gun with a God Boomer, and then another Big Mech with Shock Attack Gun. 2 war bosses. And then 2 10. And then we'll talk about the 10-man unit snaggers. 5 trucks. He went for the full 5 trucks on this one. Pretty risky because he brought no infiltrators, right? Then we have 2 5-man units of burner boys, really to fill out those SWAT teams. Even just paying for that little bit, 40 points difference between the flash kits, help you get another grot unit on the field, and it's worth it. A 10-man unit of flash kits for the Big Mech in Mega Armor, followed by 3 minimum size unit of grots, 2 5-man units of knobs with power claws, and then 2 10 units of tank busters. The knobs did have smash hammers. So he can load these up in a multitude of ways, simply because he has the burner boys and the amount of trucks that he has. He can do some leapfrogging where units get inside of a start inside of transport, disembark, move into a building to stage, and then a different unit jumps into that transport. The transport then moves and stage up in a different spot, and he's kind of used the additional 3 inches here and there to maneuver. What else we would talk about here is the beast bosses. So sometimes people say, why would you need 2 beast bosses? Well, one thing is this detachment has access to sustain, which changes what the beast boss can do, unlike in bully boys, right? If you bring a bully boy in beast boss and bully boy, he doesn't have access to sustain. That means he's really getting capped out at like 6 dev wound damage, on average. You can, if you're lucky, maybe 8. So a lot of the time you're like, well, I really need sustain to really get off on him, and he's your damage outside of the wall, right? Sometimes you really can't access your wall too early, but you really do need to deal with a problematic unit. The beast boss allows you to still get that early game respect in combat for enemy armor and transports, that you wouldn't necessarily have otherwise. That means you can then reserve the knobs with the war bosses for the WAAAGH turn where they get off and have access to their data sheet ability for the additional attacks. That's where it ends up being important. So in that way, that's nice as an Ork player for you to understand as the beast bosses. I like to take two. Your list do get quite character heavy here, right? Because then you have two beast bosses, two war bosses, two shock attack guns, and then the mech captain. So that's already 7 characters on your list, which ends up being kind of the minimal still when you're taking tactical brigade, which shouldn't be surprising because we lost orders. So it ends up being that what you're leading is really a lot of the time just exactly what you're going to give orders to, and it ends up kind of being that simple, right? There are times now where you really will just tell your tank buses, I'm just gonna give yourself stealth. You're going to hang on to the +1 that you're getting natively. And then even on the knobs, for example, right, you're going to just put stealth on yourself for the clapback response. So now it comes down to, or even your mech captain, right? People do ask, well, what's my mech captain only getting 1 order? Well, if you're re-rolling the hit roll and you're not like in super distress need to overwhelmingly kill that unit, then maybe don't give yourself +1 to hit. Give yourself that sustain for on the clapback, then where you're more likely to actually take advantage of your 4-up info and also at range. So I think a lot of the time for these units that you're also going to just be sticking stealth on everything on that go turn, on that WAAAGH turn, to really take advantage of your defensive self. Now, there are some matchups where you might need to use the offensive side of that, right? Where you might need to be like, well, I can't just afford to put stealth on everything. I need the throttle here and killing. So let's take a look at his path to victory here. So he started off hot because in his first game he got a 100-point win, where he went into the Adeptus Mechanica. So it was Belisarius Call, Cybernetica dudes, marshals, some tech priests, 3 units of rangers, 2 4 big bricks of the robots, and then a unit of sterilizers, followed by 3 units of Skuktaran infiltrators. So those robots are getting kind of dogged by beast bosses with sustain and tank bosses on this list. So he ended up running that through. Not too many people are too familiar with AdMech, so I'm not going to hold you there. But he did go into Colin into his next game, which was against the Space Marines Gladius Task Force. So he said he has a million CP. So he has a apothecary, biologist with fire discipline, Captain Tigerius, Phobos armor, Manius Calgar, Gilliman, and then Uriel Ventress. He has an impulsor, followed by 2 units of company heroes, a brick of eradicators, inceptor, infiltrators, 5 stern guard, another 5-man unit stern guard, and then the Caladius assassin. Very much hero hammery going on here. I'd like to know the mission to really give some more context. This is totally, in my opinion, within winning for Tactical Brigade. There's a lot of reliability on them actually killing you, so this could be one of those matchups where you're like, well, stealth won't really help me. They're pretty reliable and getting multiple ults. I might need to really throttle into killing these units on that one go turn that I get, because even if a little bit of them is left alive, a little bit too much, they're going to continue momentum and kill my army too quickly. But I do think the mission, knowing the mission, would make a big deal there. So let me pull up our boys list here real quick. And yeah. Oh, okay. So I had actually taken my dudes list off. Don't worry about that. Sorry, let me look at chat real here quick. How you guys chat? How does chat, now that you guys are all here, there's a good number of you guys here, how do you guys actually feel about Tactical Brigade? Have any of you guys actually played it since it's been nerfed? Because a lot of people were kind of just really sad about the fact that it got nerfed, and we're just kind of counting it down and out already. But then there's also like a big faction, portion of the Ork community that was like, well, I think it's actually the best detachment, and I'm going to be playing that nonstop. So like, where are you guys at on that one? Because I personally I like Dreadmob, like I'll run it. But when I'm looking like for its most competitive, I'm still probably going to run just what I like, to be honest. But I could understand if someone's bringing something else, and so I'm not going to hold anybody to it if they're going for it. But I don't I'm not too hero hammer kind of heavy, but you still find, you're still bringing 4 to 5 characters on an orc list. So bringing 2 more for Taktikal Brigade to make it work still isn't that out of the question or isn't too much. So that being said, I think that matchup is totally winnable. Let's go to his third game. Where he goes into the Custodes, which, man, that this matchup, us having tank busters and shooting potential changed the dynamic greatly. This is one of those where you're definitely like, where my tank buster is getting +1 to hit here because I'm picking you gets up. I'm picking you gets up and shooting when I can in the time that I can. So he has 2 units of Blade Champion, Terminator with Shield Captain Terminator armor, Dawn Eagle Jet Bike, 2 5-man units of guard, and then a 4-man unit of guard, 2 a 2-man unit of Terminators, some Prosecutors, 2 Venatari, and then Virtus Praetors, and then Draxus. Draxus is great for leading those units, the guard, but not seeing Wardens on here is a great relief typically to most orc players in that. So let me see it real quick. I should have checked. Did those Guardians have shields? No, that's beers. So that means they were just getting just kind of rinsed. They're kind of rinsed by the tank busters. You know what I mean? They're like, well, you 3 damage. You didn't bring your shields. Sorry. So love that. Let me get rid of some of these Thames here. What are you guys saying in chat? Do you guys respond? Yeah, Taktikal Brigade, you get more choices and more personalized. And it makes the Taktikal Brigade, it makes the tank buster data sheet really hold up that detachment. It's true. But will the detachment be the reason that data sheet takes another points increase? Or will it be Dread Mob, right? But Dread Mob, Dread Mob isn't necessarily going to be doing as well as reliably, I think, a lot of time, because people are scared of blowing themselves up. I don't know what kind of scared you get scared of blowing themselves up, but hey, whatever. But that's what we're aware of, right? So then we move on to the 4th game. But yeah, people like to be cunning. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I tried Dakka once and then I got nerfed. Yeah, I feel you on that, dude. So then we go to this 4th game. We have Scatter Star Arsenal. And I don't think they're going to nerf Taktikal Brigade anymore, by the way. The only thing that might get nerfed are the tank busters, in my opinion. So we have Hexmark Destroyer, Emotech the Stormlord, Scorpec Destroyer, Technomancer, Silent King. Dude, these tank busters go off in this matchup too, guys. Remember, anything with low toughness. I was just thinking about this today. How it just changes the game here. So Scorpec Spiders, Canoptic Wraith, Doomsday Ark are only T9 guys. Wouldn't these guys on 2s? Oh, that's disrespectful. 2 units of Blade ones, Ophidian Destroyers, and then Tomb Blades. So that's disrespectful, right? Typically, these guys are like, well, the orc player can't do anything to me. But now it's like, well, I'm winning you on 2s with my tank busters. That's a big deal. Big, and hitting them +1 a hit. Big deal. Well, they already get +1 a hit. There's one of those matchups where you're going to have stealth because typically once they have to shoot back at you, they're not nearly as reliable, like we said, as those Space Marines, where they get those innate rerolls in the same way. So they're not going to be reliably picking up all your tank busters, especially once you take in a pound of flesh away from them. Not to mention the beast bosses that you have, so they can't necessarily close the distance. A lot of time when they have this Silent King on the list, they're like, well, I'm going to kind of stat check you with the Silent King and not respect you. And in this case, you can't really do that. And when they do come forward, they do commit the Silent King, then you have double beast bosses and whatever mortal wound potential. So they're pulling a 100-point win there. Great job. I love it. This is what I'm talking about, guys. Even though orcs got hit, tank busters fundamentally change all the matchups for us. All of them, just by having tank busters access now and the timing of our wall. So even before Grotmas, we were doing good without those 2 things. So holding on to Taktikal Brigade and Dakka being what really carries us can't be the deal. It can't be the case because tank busters themselves in tandem with the shock attack gun are just too crazy on the support that it kind of gives us an options they get us in so many matchups. So then we go into his last game, which is against Astra Militarum, Hammers of the Emperor. So he has Rogaldorn Commanders, 3 of them, and then Slime Marbo, a unit of Cadians, followed by a unit of Catachans and Deathgrove Krieg, some Engineers, some more Rogaldorns, 3 of them to be exact, and then 2 Sentinels. So all tanks, and like we just said, Tank Busters fundamentally changed this because I can reach out and shoot one of the Dorns, two of the Dorns, and I can punch them out with my beast bosses, and then on my other units I'm putting stealth, and you're not really going to kill me, and then you just run out of assets to activations to kill all my units, and I still end up winning on points on that. So he ended up getting a 77-point win on that with the Taktikal Brigade. So I really love the Taktikal Brigade where it's still at, and when it comes down to, it's a lot of characters, it is. But the vast majority of orc lists are bringing 4 to 5 characters as it is. So 2 more, 1 more, isn't always going to be big deal notable, right? I do think that it's very important, though, as an orc player, for you to still bring melee and understand that the barriers that are broken here. Knobs getting +1 strength and then another +1 strength on the wall means now they become kind of armor crackers, where there's certain armors, T10 armor, that we can actually end up destroying, even with one of these small units of 5 knobs that we typically couldn't do, or we're able to wound stuff outside of the wall on 2+, such as elite infantry on getting the strength 10 outside of the wall, and then you can still pop sustain, so you still get some good amount of volume into that. And then Flash gets themselves, how it changes the dynamics of melee matchups, with just having that Overwatch potential and the fact that they're 4-ups in Vol, and then you're giving them stealth most of the time. You're already re-rolling hits. Don't get too greedy and think I have to give myself +1 to hit. You might actually end up spiking from the fact that you're re-rolling more your 4s into that as well. So don't overlook Taktikal Brigade just because it doesn't roll out with double orders anymore. I still think orcs are in a great spot with that. And shout out to Mr. Ryan McGuire for running that cunning war for them wall tactics. Now, with that being said, let me end up with the chat and what you guys thought to say. Because you guys are all excited and you guys are all positive. So I absolutely love to see it. Because if you check too much online, you think the difference, but our community's never beaten, right? Our community's never down, because in the grimdark future, we the only ones having fun. So let's see what you got to say to my face. Putting some stuff down so I don't have to see everything. Yeah, if he thinks you're gonna get nerfed again, maybe also, but they better hit fire dragons. Okay, I get what you're saying. If they do hit them, I hope it's not too much, right? Against like greater demons, you don't feel like tank busters are too broken. They're still really strong, but you don't feel like they're broken or unfair, because you're going from 4s into 4s. It's a good deal. So things that have a T11 and a 4-up invuln, they're not subject to getting just one shot by tank busters, and and the orcs are still doing good in a good spot, but they're not doing abusive things. So let's look for what next week is looking like. Orc players sometimes are still, even orc players that I talk to a lot and agree with in a lot of cases, end up looking like, well, what's next? And how could these attachments get better? And what about, cult of speed still sucking and buggies are still pretty useless? And I get it, but let's just take a moment to just enjoy what we got, kind of really see the benefits of the wall timing change, really see the benefits of the 2 new data sheets that have been adding into our codex, and just kind of take a look at the meta, how the matchups are playing up, before we kind of want to look to change, the game anymore, because then at the same breath, people will then say, well, they're changing the rules too much, and they're adhering to what the meta players want too much. So let's find a good middle ground and just be happy that we're a very competitive, reputable faction, and that we have a lot of good options. And hopefully we kind of explored a little bit of that today. And of course, check out our player list, because there's so much more to explore as an org player. Never be held down. A lot of the time, pick a couple units that you really want to get good at and start playing them out, because it takes a lot of time to do our hobbying anyways. So no reason to chase the meta, because by the time you've painted the first unit, the meta's passed you by. So you might as well just become the meta yourself in your own community and your own by your own will and your own passion as an org player. That's my biggest advice to you. Let's see. And then let's see what chat's anything else got to say. What's up, Joe? Wicked Joe. Whoa, what's up, Wicked Joe? Yes. You better not be trying to get out of here. You get baby wah. No such thing as a baby wah, boy. It's either a grai wah or a proper wah. Whoa, right? There's no such thing as a grai wah, boy. I'm talking about. Well, now I have a decent idea on videos to get. Yeah, there are many ideas. There's quite a good amount of videos you can get. Me personally, you guys want to know my passion, since it's the end of the video and nobody cares. I'm still trying to make killer cans work, whether it's 12, whether it's 18. I'm following my own advice that I give you guys, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna play with what I want to make work, and it's awesome, and I very much think Ork players should be doing that. And yeah, War Horde is just so good. Comparably, yes, it seems more linear in my opinion, and it has like very obvious matchups that are really good. But I promise you that there's other detachments that feel excellent and even different matchups, give you different options, and you can still peak your local community with them. And a lot of the time, people not knowing your rules because you're playing an offshoot faction is going to be a strength and a buff also. So don't forget that. And then even though for legends, yeah, would you take shock attack guns with your Chinook and Cult of Speed? Absolutely, dude. Dropping, and do you get to sustain? No, you don't get sustain from the weapons that are inside of it because it's the firing deck. So no. But the Chinook, I guess, might if it has the proper keyword. Yeah, killer cans are cool. Yes, they're hard to move. Yes, but now you have tank buster support, and hopefully that can help you control those firing lanes. And I'm learning just when. To me, I think with those killer cans is about the timing of when to be aggressive with them, and what matchups I can understand that they can actually withstand some damage, and in which matchups I have to be a little bit more cautious and wait for the enemy to come out and then take a chunk of flesh. So I'm starting to think 12 are probably going to be the place. Tank busters, a blast. And you know what? In the killer cans, I'm having fun when I'm pressing the additional button on the data sheet to try to get strength 10 or additional shots. It's absolutely hilarious. And of course, our other get is red ones go faster. Whoa! Shout out to you, Get, for those new video and then those kit bashing. So check that out if you need the tank busters, because he'll help you out with that, because those are important. Even if you only get one or two, I don't say chase the meta and run out to get those things. A lot of the time people are already getting one gifted to them. Shove them on your melee list. I promise you it'll be helpful. Yeah, excited to add them to my Call to Speed list. You should. I'm excited for anybody to play Call to Speed. A lot of time people are maxing out Def Coptas and Bikers and the same redundant stat lines. So it's like, well, just bring other good stuff in. I promise you'll have a good time. But trying to stick the shock attack gun on there. And with that being said, there's only one thing to keep in mind is fix our list this weekend. So check that out, because it's always a one-on-one with our gets. So I'm gonna reach out to those gets after this video. And be on the lookout for our paint competition that's next Friday. So with that being said, there's only one thing to keep in mind: is don't cross our wall, because we'll knock your teeth out. Whoa.